Every country has its own money, but only one currency rules them all. It's not gold. It's not Bitcoin. It's the US dollar, the piece of paper that built empires, crushed nations, and decided who wins and who loses in the modern world. When the dollar rises, economies shake. When it falls, governments panic. So, how did America turn its money into the world's most powerful weapon? And will the empire of the dollar ever fall? Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to the channel where we uncover how money shapes the world we live in. 1. The birth of a new financial order. Our story begins in 1944, in a small town in New Hampshire called Bretton Woods. World War II was ending. The world was broken. Cities lay in ruins, economies had collapsed, and trust in money had vanished. Representatives from 44 nations gathered to rebuild the global system. There was only one country strong enough to lead, the United States. At that time, America held 2/3 of the world's gold. Its factories were running, its economy booming. The rest of the world, drowning in debt and destruction. So the world made a deal, the Bretton Woods Agreement. Every country would peg its currency to the US dollar, and the dollar itself would be backed by gold. 1 ounce of gold equals 35 US dollars. It was simple, stable, and powerful. The world's message was clear: we trust the dollar because we trust America. And just like that, the US dollar became the foundation of global finance, the heartbeat of trade, the measure of value, and the language of power. 2. The rise of the dollar empire. The following decades were a golden age for the dollar. Nations rebuilt their cities using US loans. American goods, from cars to Coca-Cola, flooded the world. Every global transaction, oil, steel, wheat, and gold, started using one standard, the dollar. But power never stays quiet. By the 1960s, countries began noticing something strange. America was printing more dollars than it had gold to back them. The world started asking questions. If dollars are as good as gold, why is the US spending so freely? The answer came in 1971, and it changed history forever. 3. The day the gold died and the dollar survived. On August 15, 1971, President Richard Nixon went on live television and announced that the US would no longer convert dollars into gold. The dollar, for the first time, was backed by nothing but trust. The global system was supposed to collapse. Instead, it adapted, and the dollar became even stronger. How? Because the US wasn't just rich in gold, it was rich in power. Its military dominated the oceans. Its companies ruled global trade. Its banks financed the world. So even without gold, nations continued to use the dollar. They didn't trust the metal anymore, they trusted the system. A system controlled by the United States. 4. The secret deal that changed everything, the petrodollar. In 1973, a quiet meeting took place between American and Saudi leaders. The US made a strategic deal. Saudi Arabia and later OPEC would sell oil only in US dollars. In return, America would provide military protection and invest in Saudi oil wealth. This deal created the petrodollar system, one of the most brilliant financial moves in history. Because every country in the world needs oil, and to buy oil, they first needed dollars. That meant every country, Japan, Germany, India, Brazil, had to earn, borrow, or save US dollars just to keep their economies running. Overnight, demand for the dollar skyrocketed. The US could now print money, and the world would gladly accept it. This was no longer just currency. It was economic control disguised as trade. 5. The invisible power of the dollar. The dollar's dominance became a silent weapon. Every global payment flows through a network of US-controlled systems: SWIFT, IMF, World Bank, and major US banks. That means the US can freeze accounts, block trade, and even shut entire nations out of the financial system. When the US sanctions a country, it doesn't need guns. It uses the dollar. That's what happened to Iran, Venezuela, and even Russia. Billions in assets frozen. Trade halted overnight. That's the hidden truth. Money is mightier than missiles. And the US dollar is the most powerful weapon ever created without firing a shot. 6. Why the dollar still rules. But here's the question. Why hasn't any other currency replaced it? China's yuan is rising. Europe has the euro, but the dollar still dominates. The reason is trust. The US has the world's deepest financial markets. It allows investors to buy and sell freely. It has transparency, legal protection, and liquidity, things other nations can't match. When a crisis hits, a war, a pandemic, or a stock crash, the world doesn't run to gold or crypto. It runs to the dollar. The dollar is not just America's money. It's the world's safe haven. 7. The cost of being king. But every empire carries a burden. The US must constantly supply dollars to the world, meaning it must spend, borrow, and print endlessly. America runs huge trade deficits, importing more than it exports, yet its currency remains strong. Why? Because other countries buy US debt. They lend America money just to keep the dollar flowing in their own economies. It's a strange loop. The US prints money, the world accepts it, and then the world lends it back to America. It's genius, but it's dangerous, because if trust in the dollar ever fades, the entire system could crumble like a house of cards. 8. The new challengers: BRICS, China, and digital money. Today, the world is changing again. Nations like China, Russia, India, and Brazil are building new trade systems that bypass the dollar. They're creating digital currencies, new payment networks, and even talking about a BRICS currency backed by gold or commodities. They've seen what happens when the US freezes your money, and they don't want to be controlled anymore. But breaking free from the dollar's gravity isn't easy. You can't build trust overnight. It took America decades of power, stability, and global dominance to earn it. So while challengers rise, the dollar still wears the crown, for now. 9. The future of the dollar empire. So what happens next? Will the dollar fall? Will we see a new world currency? The truth is, empires don't fall overnight. They erode, slowly, quietly, until one day, the world wakes up and realizes the balance has shifted. For now, the dollar still dominates, but cracks are forming in debt, inflation, and politics. The US government owes over $35 trillion. This trust is being tested. The next few decades will decide whether the dollar remains the heart of the global economy or becomes just another chapter in the history of fallen empires. 10. The lesson behind the power. The dollar story is more than economics. It's a lesson in strategy. It shows how power is not just about armies or resources. It's about control of trust. America didn't conquer the world with tanks. It did it with trade, finance, and confidence. The real battlefield wasn't on land. It was in the minds of investors, bankers, and governments. Money, after all, is belief. And belief is the most valuable currency of all. If this story opened your eyes, then hit that like button, because knowledge is power. Share this video with someone who thinks money is just paper. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, where we break down the hidden forces shaping money, markets, and your financial future.